Hi everyone, this is Jay, and I'm here with Van. And today we're going to start working through the qualifications for pastors, elders, overseers that we find in 1 Timothy 3 and Titus 1. And again, most of these qualifications or characteristics are expected of all Christians. But what we're going to do today is we're going to start with a discussion of that transition from ungodly motives in our hearts to godly motives, from ungodly motives to godly motives. And we'll begin by discussing 1 Timothy 3, verse 1.
This saying is trustworthy. If anyone aspires to be an overseer, he desires a noble work.
So I think it's important to say that aspiring to be an overseer isn't technically a qualification. It's almost a prerequisite. But in 1 Peter 5, verse 2, shepherds should not serve out of a sense of obligation, but they should serve willingly. So what we're going to do now is we're going to discuss ungodly motives of church leaders. Ungodly motives of church leaders. And many times these motives are so corrupt that it reflects that these individuals aren't even Christians. God help us. So what are some of the worst motives for leading others, particularly in a church context? I'll go through this list briefly. Number 1, a desire to be viewed as righteous. Number 2, a desire to be honored publicly. Number 3, an unhealthy interest in disputes and arguments. Number 4, a greed for money. Number 5, a desire for power. Number 6, desire for sexual sin and to exploit people. And then finally, number 7, a desire to be free from godly authority and accountability. So, Van, in your life, what are some examples from your own life of ungodly motives and how they can creep into your life?
One ungodly motive in my life is a greed for money, and that's a desire to accumulate more and more money and possessions. And sometimes I see that bubble up in my life when I'm maybe checking my bank account more often than I should or would. And I don't want to have money leading my life. I don't want to trust in it more than I trust in God. And I don't want to be run by a desire to accumulate things. Instead, I'd rather grow in my giving and generosity. Another ungodly motive in my life is a desire to be free from godly authority and accountability. You know, I don't want people to know the condition or the ugly details of my heart. But that's exactly why God puts men in our lives like pastors to love us and to ask the hard questions.
And in my life, one ungodly motive that I continually wrestle with is this desire to be honored publicly. It's very easy to go through our lives hoping that people will think more and more and more highly of us. And yet it was D.A. Carson that shared in a message, the Apostle Paul went through his life concerned that people would think too much of him, which would distract people from looking to Jesus. Another ungodly motive in my life is at times an unhealthy interest in disputes and arguments. I love the details. I love studying God's word, but it's very easy for our sinful nature to lead us to be contentious and to have a hunger for dispute and a hunger to win. And that's just not godly in any way. And what we find in the New Testament is that when people have these ungodly motives, it's often linked to false beliefs and false teaching and ungodly behavior across the board. And only the grace of God can purify our motives.